us now. Before we start on the unbelievable news from the White House yesterday, can you bear to watch the president make the announcement, Phil?
Well, I've already seen it several times, but I can watch it again.
All right, Chris, cut number 4.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area.
You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there? Redevelopment?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so this could be so magnificent. If we can get a beautiful area to resettle people permanently in nice homes and where they can be happy and not be shot, not be killed, not be knifed to death like what's happening in Gaza. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell.
The place has been hell due to the human being seated with you in front of that fireplace, a mass murderer and a war criminal funded by your predecessor and now funded by you, Mr. President.
Yeah,
I don't even know where to start, but let's start. Let's start with before we get into the morality, the constitutionality, and the lawfulness. Let's talk about the practical aspects of this. How the hell is he going to get 2 million people to leave their homeland when they don't want to go, and when all of Bibi's bombs, paid for by the American government, couldn't get them to go?
well, that's the issue. I mean, in a way, he's pretending that this will be some kind of voluntary transfer of people so they can move into, Chevy Chase or something the equivalent of that with a nice home and a nice play area for the children in the yard. This is all bullshit. This is essentially what's going to happen here is that push is going to come to shove in about 4 weeks, which is when phase 1 of the fall ceasefire reaches the point where the alleged hostages are back in Israel. And then we're talking about real all hell breaking loose with the U.S. involved up to its eyeballs. And this is an extension of what was going on with our previous president and his people. And they're all playing the same game. They're playing the dance, or they're doing the dance that Israel wants them to do. And that's why Netanyahu was sitting there and grinning.
You know who was also grinning, but she wasn't on camera? Well, who was and who wasn't there? Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the United States, was not there. But the Mossad asset, Miriam Adelson, was in the White House with her 2 puppets, Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump. Can you imagine American troops going to Gaza, opening up the front doors of homes and pointing bayonets and M16s at people saying, okay, it's time to leave?
Yeah, and what happens when the Israelis open fire on American troops, like they did in Lebanon? This is just a massive mistake, giving no benefit to the United States or to the American people. That's about to happen. And the president that's doing it right now, I am ashamed to say, is so stupid, so ignorant of the facts that he so glibly comes out with about people being stabbed in Gaza. If people are being stabbed in Gaza, it's because it's the only weapon they have left. And it's it's incredible. This guy is so delusional. It's just unreal. I think when American troops get over there, they will be, if they get over there, if it goes that far and the Israelis don't kill everyone first, that the American troops will be in the nature of hostages.
The New York Times reports the following. I'm going to read it literally, and it just came out after we came on air, so about 2 minutes ago. Top administration officials on Wednesday walked back elements of President Trump's proposal to, quote, take over, close quote, Gaza and drive out the Palestinian population, insisting that he had not committed to using U.S. troops to clear the territory and that any relocation of Palestinians would be temporary. Mr. Trump's brazen proposal to move as many as 2 million Palestinians out of Gaza and seize and redevelop it as U.S. territory met with immediate opposition on Wednesday from key American partners and officials around the world. Two of the opponents of this were Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and of all people, Phil Giraldi, Senator Lindsey Graham.
Well,
So even a stopped clock can be right twice a day. I don't know why Max Blumenthal speculates that because there are so many enlisted personnel in the military in South Carolina that there'd be a lot of pressure on him. Who the hell knows? But the point is, it's almost inconceivable to me that the president could use force. It is absolutely inconceivable to me that this could be a voluntary transfer.
yeah, that's inconceivable. And I think Lindsey Graham just wants to kill all of them. That's the simple solution. In fact, he's kind of alluded to that in a couple of his statements. So, the thing is, this is untenable apart from anything else. The Palestinians are not going to go freely. They're going to have to be killed or forced out. The Egyptians are not going to take them. The Jordanians are not going to take them. My theory is that when phase one of the fall ceasefire is over and Israel has its alleged hostages back, suddenly, as Trump put it, hell will break loose, but it's going to be Israel that is going to go in to finish the job, and Trump is going to be right behind them. And there'll be some kind of false story about how Hamas has broken the terms of the agreement and so on and so forth. This is the same thing that was used in South Lebanon and is still being used in South Lebanon by the occupying Israelis, and it's the same excuse as being used in Syria to kill Syrians. It's no surprise to anyone. This is used over and over again by the Israelis with American backing, and this is a symbolic of just how disgusting we have become as a nation.
Let me just stop you and point out what we're watching. The handsome gentleman whose back you see is my former Fox News colleague, Pete Hegseth, now the Secretary of Defense of the United States. And he is awaiting the emergence from that SUV of none other than the Prime Minister of Israel. Now, has this ever happened before, that the Prime Minister of Israel or the Chief Executive Officer of any foreign government would be welcomed at the Pentagon, Phil?
I have never seen it happen that way before, and he's got a big grin for him. Oh, God.
I think we've gone from bad to worse, from Biden to Trump on all of this, don't you? This is not only not going to go away, this is going to get worse.
Yeah, but I think at the same time we have to recognize this is transitional, because there was a transition between the two administrations where you got people like Steve Witkoff and Brett McGurk meeting, and after the meeting saying, yeah, we saw eye to eye on every issue having to do with the Middle East. So this is a transitional policy, and just like the ceasefire that was arranged by, Amos Hochstein, former IDF soldier and Israeli citizen, this is all done for the benefit of Israel. It's a bit of kabuki.
How unlawful is this. I suppose you should be asking me, but this is profoundly unlawful, Phil. What legal authority does the President of the United States have to seize a foreign sovereign territory, sovereign under international law, sovereign under the United Nations, a treaty to which the United States is a party and which the United States authored?
Well, I don't know any part of the U.S. Constitution that gives the President of the United States the authority to take over a sovereign territory of somebody else. Trump, interestingly enough, kept using the expression ownership in his little talk there. And basically, he's saying that we would own Gaza. And that's kind of an interesting thing coming out of, the idea to build these luxury villas along the Mediterranean, which originated with Trump's son-in-law, Jared. And, so there's a lot of this stuff kind of fits together if you think about it real hard. There are also the economic aspects of Gaza, which have been explored in the past, but people have kind of forgotten about lately. There's the Ben Gurion project to build a canal from the Red Sea, from the Israeli port Eilat in the Red Sea, all the way up to the Mediterranean, and cut off the Suez Canal, and presumably gain billions in profit from that. And the oil and gas reserves off the Gaza coast. Trump again said that eventually there would be Gaza would be have all these nice houses and everything else for people in the area. Now, the only people in the area, of course, there are the Israelis.
I wonder if when he said we will own Gaza, he meant the United States of America or the Trump Corporation. I wonder if he was actually thinking, as he did for many years as a real estate developer. It almost seemed that way when he initially described Gaza as a beautiful location on the sea and with beautiful weather. I mean, maybe he wants to draw people from Greenland down to Gaza, so they'll desert their location in Greenland. I don't know. You can't really mock this because the ramifications to human freedom of the carrying out of this proposal are catastrophic. He is as indifferent to the personal freedom of the Palestinians as Joe Biden was.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And then the thing that kind of we're losing sight of at the moment is the fact that this is not stopping there. This is not stopping with Gaza. The Israeli army is leveling buildings and killing Palestinians on the West Bank as we speak. And I am convinced that this is like the jump up into Lebanon, and then you're into Syria, and then you're killing more people in Gaza, and then where do you go next? I mean, the next step is to basically get rid of the Palestinians who are on the West Bank. That's another million or so, but so what? These are just numbers.
What is the status of Gaza now? Has the IDF left, or are they still there?
My impression is that they're still there, and they're not everywhere they were. They have pulled back in certain areas, particularly in the north, and in the Rafah area in the south is what impression I have. But of course, I don't have any insider's information on that.
Donald Trump announced 2 days ago, not with the fanfare with which he made this announcement that we just ran from yesterday, that he had authorized $1 billion in armaments to be shipped to Israel on top of what Joe Biden had sent. Now, I have no real concept of what $1 billion can buy in armaments, but this has got to be more than the annual budget of the IDF. I don't know. What can they buy for $1 billion? What is he getting?
Well, the reality is, of course, they're not buying anything. Trump also, I think, used the expression this stuff was being sold to the Israelis. It's not sold to the Israelis because the Israelis have credit at the U.S. Treasury to the tune of $4 billion plus every year. And so this stuff basically goes there free. The U.S. taxpayer pays for it, and U.S. Arms manufacturers make the profit off it. This is a hell of a racket.
So what do they get for $1 billion? Some fighter jets, some 2,000-pound bombs, enough artillery shells for a year?
Well, the latest tally was this latest billion. I saw a breakdown which said it was bombs, again, not the big ones, but slightly smaller version. And they're also sending a lot of these armored tractors or bulldozers. And these armored bulldozers are basically kind of weapons of war. They're armored, and they are going to be used, obviously, to level Gaza and whatever happens on the West Bank. And so this is what's used for the destruction of Palestinian houses and Palestinian churches and mosques and schools and hospitals. So this is another fine gift from the United States, which we are paying for, to Mr. Netanyahu.
Do you think the American public will tolerate this, or do you think it'll be a ho-hum?
It kind of depends on how the story comes out. And we're not going to be able to count on the mainstream media in the United States to tell the truth about any of this stuff. I noticed the New York Times this morning had a piece on, what could go wrong with the Trump plan to take over Gaza and so on and so forth. And it was really kind of a wishy-washy article, because there were a lot more things in terms of what you just mentioned a while ago about the humanitarian aspects of what this is and things like that of course we don't talk about.
Trump announced, not publicly and not out of his own mouth, but from the White House, that he hasn't yet decided whether or not he'll send troops, but he has decided not to send any humanitarian aid to Gaza. Even Joe Biden, Genocide Joe himself, was sending, or attempting to send, because Netanyahu's people blocked it, humanitarian aid.
Yeah, so there is the man with the heart of gold. The American public voted for him. They were fed up with what the Biden administration seemed to be doing in a lot of other ways with the economy and other things, and the border. And Trump, of course, has vowed to fix that. And he also, I must admit, I get sometimes kind of upset, even at some of the people that appear on your program, who keep saying, and in a convincing way, that Trump is a peacemaker. He was never a peacemaker. This guy was a guy who was not smart enough to see through to these issues, to deal with them in a humane way or in any other way that makes sense to benefit the American people or people anywhere.
I don't think he has seen through the consequences of what he announced yesterday. I don't think he had seen the statement he was reading from the way he read it. He read it in a hurried and almost apologetic way. It was obviously written by somebody else. He did say he hopes to get the Nobel Peace Prize. I can't imagine, no matter what else he does, I can't imagine that happening after yesterday.
No, nor can I. And the thing is, I mean, this just makes the hole deeper that he's digging in. The United States, prior to his inauguration last week, was probably the second most hated country in the world after Israel. Now we're still going to be probably the second most hated country in the world, but the hole is just going to be deeper. It's going to be, it's not going to be remedial in any way. Nobody's going to turn this around in the next cycle of president of the United States. This stuff is cumulative and it's catastrophic.
They must be getting a lot of pushback, Phil, because the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, just said the Palestinians will be temporarily relocated. Apparently, she's speaking about this even as we talk now. So, obviously they didn't think this through. She did say that Netanyahu was aware of this before the announcement was made, even though he seemed somewhat surprised. Trump probably told him during their private meeting. More of this will come out as people think it through. One of the things he said in the clip we ran is that everybody he talked to loves the idea. Who the hell did he talk to? Probably Hegseth and company and Sebastian Gorka. His puppet Marco Rubio is down looking for a space in Latin America to deport people, many of whom are lawfully here, like the 300,000 Venezuelans who have sought to escape a socialist and brutal regime in Venezuela were lawfully granted asylum. Trump wants to kick them out. All right, there's so much we can talk about. Do you see this happening, Phil, or do you see them pulling back? Trump's announcement about we will own Gaza.
Yeah, as I say, I have a feeling this is going to flip into another stage as soon as the phase one of the ceasefire is over, which is in 4 weeks. I believe at that point we are suddenly going to see a reversion to bombing, particularly bombing. That's why they're sending all these bombs to Israel, and we're going to see a concerted effort to defeat, destroy, drive out the Palestinians on the West Bank, and basically to annex the West Bank to Israel, as well as presumably down the road at some point Gaza. So this is I think the ultimate plan, and this is the plan that Ben-Gvir and people like that are in the Israeli government have been talking about for years.
Ben-Gvir's party said President Trump is a messenger of God. So they're obviously, the right wingers are obviously ecstatic, almost deliriously so, over this announcement yesterday. Phil, I'll let you go. Thank you very much for weighing in on this. Much appreciated, my dear friend. I look forward to your piece that you usually write. Write it when you're angry, Phil.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
All right. We'll see you next week.